So if you're upset over someone ghosting you, it's likely because you thought they were a pretty great person while they were still around. And you're really upset over the loss over how it felt to be around them and the abruptness of the disconnection without a context for understanding what it means, if anything. And so imagining now that they must have really been an asshole beneath it all is also kind of a painful story to tell yourself, because that means that you're telling yourself a story about being stupid enough to be fooled by an asshole, which invalidates all the good things, thoughts, feelings you discovered within yourself when you were with them. So you're choosing a story that does not serve you. And in effect, it's kind of throwing out the baby with the bathwater, which is an expression that means that you're tossing out all the good with the bad. So I would have us write a different story, and I'm going to share my own personal story and recent relationship to ghosting to illustrate my point. So a few months ago, I took a trip to Mexico, and I met a warm, friendly, sexy, interesting, and creative man the second I stepped off the plane. We spent a lot of time together, and I enjoyed him so much that I went back a few months later. And the second visit was even better than the first. He did all the nurturing things that partners do to make you feel cared for. He would sing me to sleep every night playing the guitar. He would push the hair off my face and make sure that I had eaten enough. He'd make me walk on the inside of the sidewalk away from the cars. He would make sure that my seatbelt was secure whenever we would get in the car. He would take me to his favorite restaurants and historical spots. And of course, he made sure I was satisfied in other ways. And so I was so enamored with this person. I made portraits about him. I made poems about him. And if you check out my Instagram, you can go find them. I learned how to play Spanish songs on the guitar so that I could impress him. I even cooked for him. And I am a busy New Yorker that has a seamless addiction. Okay. And by the time I left, we were making plans for my next return trip in another 3 months. And there were tears in his eyes when he dropped me off at the airport. And after I got back to New York, I got 2 short text messages over the course of 2 weeks before he ghosted me entirely. And so I did what any normal person would do, and I cried my eyes out, and I asked myself, had this all been a facade? Did I say or do something wrong? Did I do what my sisters often accuse me of and pull a Brianna by being too intense and emotionally analytical or too direct? And I suffered no small amount of embarrassment and self-flagellation, considering that this is something that I do and talk about all day long. So eventually, however, I went through the processes that I'm going to be sharing with you today and in the next 2 live streams of this month. And I was able to see these things well enough from his perspective. So to understand that he probably thought he was doing the kindest thing for both of us in the gentlest way possible. And so as creative and as romantic as he was also a pragmatist, and the geographical distance, cultural differences, financial inequities, in addition to whatever insecurities around relationships he might have had beyond any of those things, were most likely insurmountable in his perspective. And so he probably thought it would never work. And the truth is, if he felt that way, then no, it never would. And I could see all the potential that I wanted to see. I could be willing to do whatever it is that I am willing and able to do. But if he could not receive those things or join me in that headspace, then anything I might do or suggest would fall flat or it would fail. And what I did walk away with, however, was a sense of gratitude for the heart-opening experience that I had as a result of meeting him, the reminder of what it is like to be in a relationship. And I also choose to believe that he did desire me, but also respected me enough to do what he thought was best, even if it would not have been my way of doing things. And so from his perspective, his ghosting behavior may well have been the greatest show of respect he could have given me. And so if that's the case, how fair would it be for me to strip him of my regard now? So sometimes ghosting is not about disrespect or being an asshole. Sometimes the ghoster might think it is the kindest thing that they could have done. And doesn't that create a story that serves you far better than believing that you had been played for a fool?